Hello and welcome back to the shop. So in order to satisfy my irrational desire to constantly reinvent the wheel, for today's video we will be working on recreating yet another common tool that can be found just about anywhere and most likely be bought for less money than we'll spend on materials for this project. However, none of that is relevant because I am a crazy person and I'm willing to bet that you're just a little bit crazy too. So with that in mind, let's talk about screw jacks. So in case you're unfamiliar, this is a screw jack or a machinist jack. It says so on the box. In fact, this is my machinist jack. There are many like it, but this one is. Machinist jacks have a lot of uses around the shop. You can do all sorts of stuff with them. You can even use them to level machines. However, I think when most people think about these, at least when I think about them anyway, I usually think about setups on the milling machine. A small jack like this is often used when performing cutting operations on long, thin parts where the force of those operations might otherwise cause the part to flex. So for example, you can see with this jack here, I can push down on this thing as hard as I want and it's not going anywhere. But if I remove the jack, it's very easy to cause it to flex. So the way this particular jack works is you have this jack shaft that just screws directly into the base, and then when you get it to whatever elevation you need it at, you'll use this lock nut to lock everything down. And in theory, that's simple enough, it works well enough. However, it's always been a little bit fiddly, and sometimes it can be downright frustrating getting this thing just where you need it. Also, I would ultimately like to have 2 or 3 more of these anyway, so I figured while I'm at it, why not try and improve on the one part of the design that's always bothered me. So that is what we're going to do. I have my design here that I hope improves on some of those shortcomings. We're going to put it all together and find out how well it works. As usual, if you would like a copy of these drawings for yourself, you can find them over on my Patreon. And with that, I think we've done enough talking. Let's get started. I'll get started working on the main body of the jack. For that, I have this piece of 1144 stress proof. I don't think that material selection is terribly important here. However, I would avoid lighter materials like aluminum, for example. You do want this thing to have some mass and some weight so that it sits still whenever you set it down on your mill table. Next, the outer diameter needs to be turned down to 1.5 inches. After the initial pass, I can take a reference measurement, which I can then enter into my DRO and use that as my starting diameter. I can then just keep turning until my DRO tells me that I've hit my target. Next, I need to drill a bore through the center of the part. This bore needs to be a clearance bore for the main screw, which we will make later. In this particular design, the screw shaft is going to be moved up and down via an adjustment collar, so you won't turn the screw directly. That adjustment ring is going to sit in a counterbore at the top of the main body. So I need to bore that out to 1 inch in diameter at a 1/2 inch deep. After breaking those sharp edges, I am now ready to part this off. I'm going to leave myself about 50 thousandths of extra length on the back side, just so that I can flip the part around and clean up that back face, which is going to be the bottom of the screw jack when it's all finished. I was getting a little bit of chatter while parting off, which causes the camera to go completely out of focus here. What I wouldn't give to have a camera person. Alright, all I have left to do now is drill and tap a couple of holes, and this piece will be done. Both of these holes are going to be tapped for 832, and the screws that are going in these holes are going to act as keys, which are required for the screw jack mechanism to function as intended. The tap follower that I made in my last video already coming in handy, If you haven't seen that video or downloaded your free set of plans to make one of your own, make sure that you check that out, but only after you're finished watching this one. Alright, so here is the first piece all finished. This is the main body. So that's this piece right here. And next I want to work on this piece right here, which I am calling the adjustment ring or the adjustment bushing maybe. Either way, there are two sections to this. There's this top section here, which is knurled, and then this bottom section, which will fit right in this recess in the top of the main body. So that knurled section will be sitting right out here, and by turning this ring in either direction, you will cause the main screw to either move in or out. So this thing also will need to be drilled and tapped for the main screw. That's really all there is to it, so let's get started. To make this adjustment bushing, I will be using the rest of this 1144 stress-proof stock that I used to make the body. To start off, I will rough out the general shape, and I'll take the two sections down to their finished diameters. Like before, after an initial pass, I can take a reference measurement, which I can then enter into my DRO, and I can use that to keep track of my diameter. I am really starting to be glad that I finally got around to installing this DRO. The more I use it, the more I get used to it being a part of my workflow, and it really is a handy tool to have on the machine. That is the finished OD for what will be the knurled section. Next, I need to turn down the section that will fit inside the recess of the main body. Turning down this section will also rough out the general shape of my part. Now I need to locate the groove that will line up with one of those tapped holes that we added earlier. This groove is going to interact with the thumb screw that goes in that hole, which will serve as both a key and lock for the adjustment ring. Just checking the fit of my 832 screw. It needs to sit in that groove and hold the adjustment ring captive without obstructing its ability to spin freely. Next, I will drill the bore for the 7/16 tap that I'll be using to tap this part. Next, I just need to add my knurled feature since this part is intended to be manipulated by hand. Of course, going to use my scissor knurler here, which honestly I wasn't sure if the scissor knurl was going to be big enough to do this part, but thankfully it was, and I think it could even go a little bit bigger. I really like my scissor knurl. The knurling pattern came out pretty nice here. I would like to get some coarser wheels for this knurler. All that I have is this fine wheel, and I think something a little coarser may have been better for this material, but it came out all right. And with that finished, I'm ready to just clean up these edges here, and then I can part this off. So this just happened in the middle of that parting operation. Look at this. Look at that. It just pushed it right out. You know, I normally don't use these Allura style cutoff tool holders, and this is exactly why. I have had this exact issue in the past. I don't know what possessed me to use this one. I don't know what I was thinking, but these things stink. They are the worst. And it's the whole reason why I made this one in the first place. So yeah, that just happened. Kind of a pain in the butt, but I guess I'll put this one on and finish up this operation. I don't know, I just wanted to show you that. These things stink. Don't use them. I think I'm gonna throw this one away. And one more quick thing here. You can see how much smoother the rest of this parting operation goes with this tool holder. I think that other holder may have been at least part of the reason why I kept getting chatter in parting operations earlier. I'm using these little 1/16 of an inch copper pads here because they let me really crank down on the chuck and hold on to this thing really tight without having to worry about marring my nice machine surfaces. And with that done, this part is getting really close to being finished. I just need to clean up this back face, take it down to its final size, And I'm also going to give that central bore a nice generous chamfer, which is going to help me get the hand tap started. I will be using an Acme tap to tap this central bore. And if you've ever used an Acme hand tap, then you know that these things, they require some muscle to get them through. So I am going to be relying on the machine here to provide some leverage to help me with this. Having this in the lathe and being able to use the chuck and chuck key to get that leverage really makes this a lot easier. All right, there it is, the second piece of the puzzle, the adjustment ring or adjustment bushing, I guess, whatever you want to call it. I think you can start to see how this is going to work here. So this piece here is going to fit right in this recess in the top of the base. And this top hole that I drilled and tapped here, that lines up with this groove in the side of the adjustment ring. So I put that down in there, and then I take a screw and put it right in here. I don't know, maybe I'll make like a nice brass knurled thumb screw for this piece here if I have time. But if I put that in there, that will then lock this in place so I can't pull it out, but I can still spin it freely. And it's been tapped 7/16 10 left-handed Acme. So the idea being that when I turn it clockwise, it will cause the screw to push out or the jack to move up. And if I turn it counterclockwise, it'll cause the screw to retract into the base or make the jack go down. I don't know, I just think that from a use perspective, that kind of makes sense. I feel like that's what I would expect, you know, if I were to just use something like this. It would just feel right that, you know, you turn it clockwise and it extends. So that's why I tapped it left hand. And yeah, I mean, it seems to be working the way that it's supposed to, so that's good. I mean, that's not going anywhere. It spins nice and free. And then the other thing is this screw, if I tighten down on it, that will then lock this thing in place so that it'll, you know, lock your jack in place wherever you have it. And I just loosen it back up and I can spin it freely again, and it's not going anywhere. Like I said, maybe I will make like a nice knurled brass thumb screw. I think would look good there, but in terms of functionality, it seems to be working pretty good. Works the way that it's supposed to. I'm liking the way that it's looking. It's chunky. It's got some weight to it, which I don't know, I think is a good thing for a jack like this. I feel like I kind of wanted it to be heavy, so I'm glad that it's got some heft to it. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this thing's shaping up. Unfortunately, however, I am out of time for this week, so I am going to have to wrap this up here. If you want to see the exciting conclusion, you'll just have to tune in next week. That is where we will make the main screw and the platform. That's the part that actually touches the work that the work sits on. And of course, we'll put it all together and see if it works. Hopefully it will. In the meantime, if you have made it this far into the video, thank you so very much. I do truly appreciate each and every person who watches, and when you watch this far into the video, it tells the algorithm that you enjoyed it, which means it will be shared with more people. So thank you. I want to give an extra special heartfelt thank you to my patrons. There are actually people out there who find value in what I do, which quite honestly, I am just having a hard time wrapping my head around. But you are out there, you do exist, and I am humbled inspired, and just filled with gratitude from your generosity. So thank you. Which I guess brings me to my Patreon. I do now have a Patreon. If you like what I do and want to support my work, you can do so there. The link will be in the description. If you're already a subscriber, thank you again. If you haven't subscribed, but you like what I do here and you feel like I've earned it, give me a like and a subscribe. If you feel like I haven't, let me know what I can do better in the comments down below. And as always, until next time, get out there, make something awesome. Most importantly, have some fun, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon.